This is Groove Talk with Froggy Style.
Welcome to another episode of Groove Talk, everybody. On this episode, I am joined by Kyle Prusky, and he is the founder of Apex Audio.
Yeah, owner, operator, founder.
Cool. Mastermind. I like that.
For sure.
Yeah.
No, man, thanks for having me on. It's good to be back.
Yeah, for sure. So you were on the podcast you were one of the many people who came with the Our Last Crusade, for the Our Last Crusade Pro podcast. And so I guess why not, just to start, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and just kind of about Apex Audio?
For sure, man. Well, I mean, playing instruments and playing in bands, kind of growing up through the teen years, you get like a feel and an itch to just keep playing and keep kind of expanding your horizons, get a bit of a knowledge base doing some other things. And honestly, it even came across, I was in SAIT doing electrical engineering, and I was playing in a band called To Take a Life with a couple of really good buddies of mine. And it's kind of just like the nature of the beast, where sometimes it's hard to organize like a bunch of people to get on the same direction or whatever. So decided to, I have a bunch of these songs going on. I want to try to get them out into the world, or just try and get them onto tape and see what happens. And you just kind of fall into it like slowly, and you realize that, like, especially when I started like 6-7 years ago, all this technology just started becoming really accessible, and being able to kind of put yourself in the studio didn't really mean what it meant back before all this stuff was accessible. So it was perfect start for me to get to record my own tunes and kind of harness my musical abilities and train my ears and whatnot. So it was perfect. Graduated from SAIT and decided to go to the University of Lethbridge, and actually went for their management kind of business program, but I took every single audio production course that I could.
Yeah.
And man, I'm telling you, the dean of the music faculty did not like me, because I was the only management, like business-minded guy who was just in there all the time, like, listen, like, what do I have to do to get into this class? Like, I want to get into the studio. I want to get into all this stuff. So long story short, I ended up being like the only management student who's ever had access to their huge, crazy studio. And I just kept going down every rabbit hole, every loophole that I could find, and after a while, I got some good experience there. And I joined Our Last Crusade when I went to Lethbridge, so I was kind of like driving up each weekend, like practicing with the guys. Had a couple of my own groups going on, and man, it just kept going from there. Just kept writing music, kept playing music, kept wanting to record and harness those abilities. And I'm even going into a rabbit hole right now just talking about it. Like, it's just endless, man.
Yeah.
You can't get away from it. You can't stop it.
Yeah, you can definitely just by the way that you've already talked about it, you can tell that you are passionate about it.
Dude, yeah. We're gonna be here for a while.
Yeah. Cool. That must have like kind of been a cool experience too, like being on the business side of things and then kind of delving into the music. Because did that give you maybe kind of an advantage, do you think, maybe kind of starting up your own thing? Or?
Man, I would say 100%, like just knowing the ins and outs of business, at least on the basic, like educational side, what they teach you. And even, it's funny, like a lot of the students in the digital audio arts program at the University of Lethbridge, the few of them who did know that I was in management and all that kind of stuff, they kind of, I felt like I was getting the approving nod a little bit here and there, because these guys were going through like music theory and music history and learning about all that stuff, and interesting stuff or whatever. But when it comes time to do the business side of things, music theory isn't going to help you too much. So it was really nice for me to get the general management side of things, kind of just get a good comprehensive view of how the world works in that kind of way. And I knew what I wanted to do with music in the studio, so I didn't feel the need to have to really dive into the music program in particular. Like, I kind of just like, even going into these into these classes, I would just kind of go in, pick out what I knew that I wanted from the classes, or what I wanted to gain from these courses, and just use them for my own nefarious purposes. It's perfect. I loved it. Yeah. I got to sidestep a lot of these other things that the other students were doing, so it was good.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's like kind of almost the I don't want like the issue kind of with like post-secondary school is if you pick a path like that, there's a lot of like bullshit that you don't need, like
liberal education.
yeah, exactly. But it sounds like you knew what you wanted to do and you took the classes that you needed to do it, and you kind of got that information that you needed still, which
Absolutely.
was,
And then obviously like on my own time, just being completely obsessed with audio and music and whatnot. Like, everybody's partying their faces off, and I definitely had like some fun times there, but usually I was just holed up in my little cave, little studio there in my Lethbridge college house, and just kind of gave it a good go. It was perfect.
So like what kind of, I know maybe you touched on it a bit, but like what started your kind of obsession with like just the audio engineering side of things more specifically?
I think it's just like, with all of us, like growing up listening to music and getting those favorite bands or favorite styles in, and then you try to record your own tunes or whatever, and you're just like, well, this doesn't make sense. Why doesn't my stuff sound like so-and-so stuff? Like, why is my guitar all loose and flubby, and these guys, like, it's just so high gain and so crisp? Like, how in the world do I get my guitar to sound like that guitar? And from there, it just becomes, like, I'll say it once and I'll say it again, like, it just becomes a rabbit hole. Like, all of a sudden you realize there's so much that you can do with sound manipulation and effects processing and getting like a good stereo image and the rest of it. There's all these like little pieces that you got to push and pull on, and it's the perfect example of how like 1,000 tiny decisions add up to this one big picture, and so I was obsessed right from the get-go, right from when I recorded that very first guitar take or whatever, because you record something and all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, now obviously something else needs to happen for me to be, so okay, does it mean like EQ? Like, what the heck is an EQ? Like, oh, okay, I can like push and pull on frequencies, that's pretty cool, and man, it just goes from there.
I definitely, there was a few years there where I definitely kind of delved into the audio production world, and it's what kind of got me is more of like the producing music through computers and stuff like that.
Totally.
And like you said, it's a rabbit hole. Like you start learning about EQs and compressors and just like effects and all the like limiters and just like attack gain, just all of it. It's like, and like once you actually have a comprehensive knowledge of like what those knobs are actually doing to sound waves, it gets like even more interesting.
It's insane, and it's cool too to hear about and explore other people's ways of mixing and getting different audio engineered sounds, and you start to realize that there's a lot of smart people out there who have their own kind of process of things. And what I really love is it's not a one size fits all type thing. It really is subjective art where you kind of make it what you want it to, and it might not be what somebody else has done, but more often than not, you can come up with something that's uniquely yours and in your creation. And I think that's just the most wild thing about audio production. There's no limits. You can do anything you want to do. It's the perfect outlet.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And like rabbit hole is the perfect way to describe it, because there is an endless amount of plugins and just anything that you could, and like, it's not stopping and so it's like really hard. You just have to like limit yourself almost, you have to be like, okay, I'm just gonna get really good at these ones for now,
definitely,
and then maybe add some other things into my arsenal later. And
it's so good too, because it was such a great extension from playing music in the way that I always found myself playing music growing up, and you get really pigeonholed into like, I'm a metalhead, man, like metal is king, metal's forever, not going to do anything else. And then after a while of audio engineering, you just naturally become more interested in, well, like, like I like producing metal, but there's all these other sounds, all these other different kinds of vibes that you can get out of your tools and what you have at your disposal. So, you start to kind of just like mess around with some other stuff and, poke into some other genres, or just kind of do whatever you feel like doing. And it's even allowed me to get a better perspective on like the music industry and kind of what's coming out and what I like about certain songs or whatever. Because if it wasn't for me getting into audio production, then I'd probably just be like still crushing a ton of Megadeth and Slayer and just like not really anything else, which is not a big deal or not a bad thing or anything like that. It's really nice to kind of get a good perspective of the whole thing and what it's especially like what everybody is doing and who's pushing the threshold and who's trying to like break through the limits and create something like really hard-hitting and memorable. I love it.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And like once I started kind of delving a little bit into audio production and stuff like that, is I started listening to music differently.
Yeah.
Just in general, like you hear like a hi-hat noise and you're like, that hi-hat sounds so tight. Like
Yeah, you get down to all these little things, and
Yeah.
you just you start to pay attention a little bit more, and it's too funny.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
almost ruins music for you in a way, because
Yeah.
then you can't stop but like critically listen to something like, yeah, that bass guitar is really pokey, or like, oh my god, this drum set's the hugest drum set I've ever heard. And
Yeah,
you're not
yeah.
even listening to the lyrics or like
Yeah.
the message of the song or whatever.
Yeah, you're hearing like these very specific parts, and like songs come on the radio all the time now, and I'm like, oh, I really like this one synth line in this one song, like the way
Yeah.
it sounds and just the way it flows, and then the rest of the song is whatever to me. But
Oh, absolutely. I'm guilty all the time of like never listening to the lyrics, and
Yeah.
just always, it could be like the most like sadistic, weird, depraved song, and I'm like, this is really catchy, this is really nice.
Yeah.
They're like, oh my god, dude, what are you doing?
yeah. Lyrics are like one of the least important thing to music for me personally.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah.
That's just me personally. I know it's different. Everybody listens to music differently, and that's the cool thing about music too, is it means something different to everybody. But I'm like, instrumentation is really where it's at. Like obviously when, you know, there are lyrics that resonate with you, they resonate with me, but I almost think of as the vocals is almost just like another instrument, you know?
100%, man. I'm with you, especially when it comes to metal. Like there's such a flourish and gush to the vocals that, you know, like it sits in its space there, but it has to really glue in with everything else for it to work. Whereas, you know, you see in some other genres, like, you know, something even like acoustic or whatever is with some like kind of acousticy folk music, I find it really interesting that the way it's recorded or the way that it sounds doesn't always have to be as like smooth and precise or anything like that. Like in those tunes, I really feel like it is about the vocals and the message and whatnot, because, you know, it's uncanny to see a song that doesn't sound 100% there be such a huge hit. But you couldn't say the same thing about metal, almost in a way, whereas like if something sounds wrong in metal, or like it's something's off, or it's not as tight as it should be,
Yeah.
it kind of ruins the vibe of it, where yeah, like everything becomes an instrument, and some of these other genres, it's really just about the absolute feel of the song. So there's a lot of differences for sure.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. It's crazy how just a singer-songwriter and their acoustic guitar can just have such like a huge impact on like music in general, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, yeah, they're just up there singing, and like I definitely agree, when you have that kind of thing, it is about the lyrics, and it's about the emotion that that person is like conveying through their instrument and their vocals. Whereas, yeah, with metal, it's like, especially with metal for me at least, again, this is my personal preference, it's like, it's all about like the technicality of it, like that tightness of like the whole thing, like the thing as a whole.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah.
That's one thing I just love about metal, is just the sheer musicianship that goes with it or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
there's so much to be said for technical music, prog music, metal in general, like even hard rock and whatnot. Like these guys are just trying to stay aggressive, stay kind of in your face, and who doesn't love that? Like, it's excellent.
yeah. Like, there's been so many times where I like listen to metal music, and it's like I'm sitting there and it's literally like blowing my brain out through my ear holes how good it is and like how technical it is, and I'm like looking at people, I'm like, are you hearing this? Like,
Yeah, seriously.
yeah. So I know that like technology has kind of made it easier for not like everybody to, you know, kind of delve into the production world, but the barrier to entry has definitely come down. So I guess like just what are your kind of thoughts on that?
I think it's perfect, man. I think, you know, the change that we've all seen in the music industry for the last 20 years wasn't something that could ever have been stopped, and it's just going to keep on changing and expanding what you can do with music and how we all consume music and whatnot, and just giving people the ability to create anything is a huge positive in that, because you see a lot of people through the, you know, the last decade here for sure, where they're using some of the most basic tools to create some of the most groundbreaking songs. And if you would think in terms of like, well, you know, like if they didn't have access to these simple tools or these really, I mean, we're talking like things like even like GarageBand or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And if they didn't have like things like that, then we would be like as people or society or whatever, we would be without these songs that have really touched and resonated with all of us. And so I think it's really important to just give people all the tools and all the freedom to do whatever they got to do. And I mean, yeah, like with technology as a whole, I mean, I'm already behind. Like I'm 26 and I'm already way behind. Like I can't imagine what's going to be available to everybody in the next 10 years or 20 years. Like it's going to be incredible to see what kinds of things people are going to be able to do with very little. And I love that. That's my mantra right now for sure, is like how much can you do with how little you have or whatever. Like you can do so much with so little. It's fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, like this podcast wouldn't exist if like the technology wasn't there, you know. It's
so true.
It's so easy now to just get like a laptop, audio interface, couple mics, bam.
Yeah.
Under $1,000, you can start a podcast easy.
And you're mobile with that. You can go wherever you want to go with that, which is the most insane kind of flexibility. And I've done the same kind of things where with like rappers especially or whatever, where they kind of just want to villain out in their house or whatever, and I'll just be like, yeah, man, I'll just come over and we'll turn the lights low or whatever and do whatever you got to do, and just record some tracks. And I love it, man. Like I think it's like it brings like all sorts of people together too in a funny way, and it's just awesome.
Yeah, and it's cool that you can do it with what, like, I mean, again, with this podcast, it started with one microphone that I had duct taped to a speaker stand that we would all sit around.
Nice. That's excellent, man. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, exactly. It worked. Those episodes, obviously, you can tell the quality or the difference in quality and stuff, but
well, that's where the rabbit hole comes in, man. You get obsessed with like, how can I make this sound like as possibly like best possible thing I can get it to sound.
Yeah, exactly. And so what did you start out with, I guess?
Man, I started out with like pretty much even what you have here, and you know, for people listening and they can't see what's going on, like we're just dealing with like a little 2 or 4 input Focusrite unit, couple of mics and XLR cables, and a laptop. And that's the beautiful thing too, is you don't even need this crazy huge PC tower or anything like that. Like, you know, you can get away with having even a real mediocre laptop has enough processing power to do at least like, you know, 2 multi-track recording kind of thing. And so I started out with the absolute very basics and built myself up from there. And it's been nice too, because, you know, as hard as it is to sometimes get away from like, oh, I have to buy more gear, it'll just make things better, or like, you know, more gear equals a better sound, or more expensive gear equals a better sound. It's almost nice to have started from like a humble beginning, like this kind of setup, because you really learn to utilize what you have. Yeah. And there's so many other things that go into creating sound rather than just like, you know, the little bits of equipment you have. So I almost think that you should start as lean as you possibly can. Yeah. And then just learn how to do things from there. And you know, you don't need these wild hardware units. Like, you know, it'd be really nice to have like a wicked like mini Moog like synth, or like some crazy like synth or whatever. But there's a lot of tools out there that are just available to anyone who you know is looking for them. And so yeah, I started super bare bones, and I mean really even 6-7 years later, I'm still essentially super bare bones. And yeah, I mean, I'll pat myself on the back. Like, I'm pretty stoked with the kinds of sounds I'm able to get with the gear that I have, and it's just feeds into my whole obsession with getting the absolute most I can out of what I have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like I said, like anybody, just the like, you know, back in the day, if you were going to go and record something, it would be like, okay, we're spending so much money to go into the studio. You have to go somewhere. That time is valuable. But like now, like some of the, like you said, I think some of the most successful songs were either made in a bedroom or recorded in a bedroom, just off somebody's laptop. Like bedroom producers are a thing, you know?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely, yeah. Yeah, it's funny. It was almost like a title that you would give somebody who's like just barely starting out. But now it's just like there are bedroom producers out there who are just crushing it.
Yeah, and it's like, the thing is like, again, it's what you said, is just know what you have and just utilize it and work with it and
100%, man.
Master it, essentially. Like,
oh yeah. Well, and I think that even ties into like, you know, this is kind of like widening the scope a little bit here, but you know, people in general looking for like that one thing that's going to help them do like X or whatever, or like they have this like one idea about, oh, I'm gonna make this one change and it's gonna make my life better and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, you know what, like, so it's the same thing with like all this music stuff. Like, you don't need that like one special piece of like gear, like that one thing that you think is gonna like make it all better. It takes time, takes work, it takes a good pair of ears, like developing your ear, developing your ears, and just spending good quality time with it, man.
No, I definitely agree. There's so many people out there where they're like, if I get this thing, I will be happy. Or, if I do this, or I want to do this. But then you realize how much work everything is, to actually be successful at something like music production or playing an instrument even, or just painting, anything that's worth doing. It takes a lot of work. Exactly, and especially if you want to like be successful at it, I think there's a fair amount of people out there who just aren't really willing to like put in that work.
Oh, 100%, yeah, 100%. Yeah. And I think that's like a barrier in itself, is like, all this stuff is really accessible, and that barrier, or the threshold to kind of overcome that has lowered. But we're still people. We still got to find the time, find the motivation, the drive, and kind of just get it done. Just find your discipline and whatnot. So, it definitely speaks for itself.
Yeah. So, when you are kind of like recording things, I guess I kind of want to touch on, because I know that there's a lot of maybe newer musicians who kind of listen to this podcast. So what's maybe something that I'll give you kind of a scenario. Some band kind of hires you and they're coming in to record their first EP.
Yeah.
What's maybe one of the biggest mistakes that kind of new musicians into the studio might make?
There's so many. You know what? Like, and you can't fault him, right? Like, it's exciting. You're recording your music, like it's your baby, and you just want to go in there and shred and just like crush it super hard and have a blast or whatever. And I don't think a lot of people realize when they go into the studio how much prep they have to do on their side, in a way. Like, and I don't mean just like, prepping like being on time or like bringing what you need to bring or anything like that, but just like the level of like comprehension that you need in your own music and how you're playing, like that you understand how you need to be playing or how you need to approach a recording session in order for your idea to come across as naturally and impactful as you want to. Like, you want to get the right vibe out of your performance. So I find that a lot of people get too nervous in a way where they almost need to shake off the cobwebs. Like, they need to understand that, like, hey, it's a fun, casual, fun process. Like, we're here to have a good time and to get some good work done. It's not going to be the absolute end of the world, but you do need to prepare and at least like know what you're there to do. So, for instance, with guitar players, whatever, and I just say this from my own experience being a guitar player, like it took me until I started to try to record myself to realize, okay, like you need to your palm muting in your picking strategy or your pick attack needs to be leveled up, kind of thing. Like there's no room in recording for like soft or weak picking and all that kind of stuff, and that kind of thing will just come through in a recording right away. And I think one thing that's been pretty prevalent, but we're starting to slowly get away from here, is the fix it in the mix mentality. Like, where a band might come in and they just think, we're just going to record until our heart's content, and this guy's going to go home or do whatever he's got to do and just make it sound amazing, like like some sort of black magic or whatever. And there's a lot of things that you can do, like post-processing wise and mixing and mastering to get things to sit well, or get the kind of sound or vibe that you want out of an instrument. But it really comes down to you. It comes down to your playing technique and how you approach your session, and how well your instrument too, and how well the instrument is set up and everything. Like, there's so much that goes into a recording session before you even press the record button. And so I see a lot of guys out there, and I think it even just comes down to the education of it or whatever. Like, there's not like a resource, or there's maybe not like as many resources as there could be out there that prepare people for entering the studio and what they should be expecting. They might just have some stories from their buddies, or like have like a general idea of what to expect. But yeah, they just aren't really quite sure what it means to be in the studio and what they need to do before they get there and record. And you know, that definitely falls on my shoulders, where you just learn to expect it, and it's not a bad thing or anything like that. But just when people come to do a song with you, they just kind of need to be coached and trained a little bit to kind of get to that right headspace and that right kind of, you know, like, what are we here to do, and that's work. And yeah, it's fun, but we gotta you know, keep our ears sharp and not mess around or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know. That was my long-winded answer. I kind of derailed a little bit.
No. Hey, I told you before the podcast, I like long-winded answers and ramblings because it makes my job real easy. Excellent. But it is something that, because like I told you also before the podcast, that I did do a little bit of music production, and it is one thing that you do learn through doing, you know, your own kind of mixing and stuff like that too, is no matter how much mixing you do to a sound, it's really the quality of the initial product that has the biggest effect on it. 100%, you know?
Yeah. And it might be one of those kind of like, you know, just those drilled in sayings these days where, you know, you got to get it right at the source. You got to get it right at the source. And you think, oh yeah, just, you know, you got to record it right at the source. But no, you need to actually understand that you got to record it right at the source. And that, you know, there's no shortcuts or whatever. Or at least, you know, there are, but we'd rather not use them.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's funny too, because like, you know, anybody who's listening that's just like, oh, this guy is just like such a tyrant, like, geez, or whatever. I'm actually the most harsh on myself when I'm recording myself. I'm like the guy who like will like make a mistake or whatever. I'm like, Jesus, Kyle, like, get your head on straight, man. Like, what are we doing here? Okay, let's do it again.
Yeah. I think everybody, like most creative people, are their own worst critics. You know.
There you go.
Like I'm the same. I hear every single mistake that is in the podcast, you know, like every little thing. I'm like, man, you sound dumb there. God damn it. Like,
yeah, totally. Yeah.
Be better at that. Or you let that conversation like go in a weird place, or like you weren't asking proper. Yeah, I think everybody's their own worst critic. And
fair enough, man.
I've talked to enough bands to, I think, yeah, that's a fair assessment.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, man. No, you nailed it, I think.
Yeah. So I think I may already know the answer to this question, but what's the hardest instrument to record?
I mean, that's a tough one. I almost want to say drums, and I almost want to say vocals, because they take so much attention. I mean, so you got drums, but there are so many different moving pieces, so many different microphones where you got to be looking out for like phase. Like there's just a lot that can go wrong. And so you got to be really paying attention to the minor details of things. It could even be something as simple as like when you hit a certain shell or a cymbal, does something else on the kit rattle when that happens? And to be on the lookout for that kind of thing. And you know, because once those drums are recorded and printed down, I mean, other than doing some like sampler replacement or whatever like that, like it's baked in. Like you can't change like a really crappy shell ring or something like that. And so it takes a lot of energy to be able to listen for that kind of cohesive sound. And then I say vocals because it actually takes so much energy to listen to the delivery of the vocalist and to determine if that's like the proper enunciation of the word or of the phrase, or if they were, you know, in time with the song the way that they should be, if they should have held out you know, a piece of the word a little bit more or a little bit less, or like how their P's or T's or C's and K's are hitting. Like there's all these little things, and I always laugh. You know, Adrian will tell you this too, the vocalist for Our Last Crusade, that you know, we got it down to a pretty good science, but it's so funny. Like I'm just as exhausted as he is after the session. He's been screaming in my ear for like hours, and I'm just as exhausted because I'm listening so intently on his delivery and what we're capturing. So Yeah, I would definitely say in a weird way it's probably between drums and vocals for different reasons, but technically wise, for sure, drums, like there's just so much going on.
Yeah.
Energy wise, vocals has got to be, you're just listening so intently all the time.
Yeah. And I thought it might be drums because again it's just like a big thing and there's a lot
Right.
going on.
Yeah.
And also the drums are like, that's like the backbone of the song too,
Exactly.
So,
And yeah, especially when we're talking like metal production or something like that, like the drums have to be absolutely perfect. Like they have to be the most crushing, punchy drums that you can get out of the kit and out of the performance of the drummer. And you got to watch out for so many things, but that's just a part of the fun. It's just a part of the fun of getting through a song and going back and forth and figuring out what the best take of that song is.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think it's almost the kind of the fun of a lot of creative things is you kind of have a problem, like, or you get faced with the problem and then you're like, how am I going to solve this with the tools that I have available, like
Yeah.
So what about genres? Is there any genres of music that are more difficult to record than others?
Oh man, you know what? Like, and it might just be because I come from such a hard rock, metal background, but recording, producing, and even mixing pop music is tough because how do I say this? Like, and it's something that I'm constantly trying to get better at, because I think that as noisy and as adept as you have to be at like mixing metal and getting all the sounds to work together, it takes, like with pop music, like you're thinking like top 40 music or anything like that, like you have not only a bigger audience, but you have there's a bar that's been set on like what sounds good in like pop and top 40 music. And I honestly believe that like there's only there's only certain people who can really get that, like, man, that perfectly balanced, perfectly smooth and crisp pop vocal or the instrument track or anything like that. And like it takes a special kind of engineer to get like a pop song to be incredibly lively and eccentric and dynamic, but kind of harnessed into where it needs to sit. And I have huge respect right now for pop and that kind of genre of things, because man, like the attention to detail that those guys have to have in their audio engineering and recording is, I think it's on another level, man. Like they have everything dialed down insanely hard.
Yeah, and like I feel like every aspect of those songs too are just like, so there's nothing that gets left out. Like everything is gone over with like a fine-tooth comb.
And I think that's like a part of what I'm trying to get across is like in metal and in rock and all that kind of stuff, there's so much noise and you're trying to tame it down and get it to a spot where it is. But some things can be kind of like loose or might be like an afterthought, but it just kind of works with the noise that you have going on or whatever. But with pop, if something's kind of off or if something could be like a little bit better, I can almost guarantee you that you're going to hear it or you're going to feel that something is missing, because there's such a standard energy that goes into pop music and it can't be overlooked. And so yeah, I think those guys are on their own kind of pedestal and tier. And I mean, any great mixing engineer, mastering engineer definitely deserves like credit where it's deserved, and being able to manipulate sounds how they need to get their desired outcome. But man, yeah, pop is its own beast for sure. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, no, that's super. Again, that's not what I was expecting, to be honest. I was maybe expecting metal music to be the answer, just because of the amount of instrumentation that goes into it.
It's pretty dense mixes for sure. But I don't know, after a while, especially if that's like your main jam or whatever, you kind of get a good understanding of that kind of thing after a while. But man, yeah, pop, like just like those nice, like, and I can just hear it in my head right now, like those beautiful silky vocal lines that are in pop music, like, damn, like, yeah, those guys have it down.
Yeah, and I like I'm sure working with the human voice too is like, I do it a little bit, obviously, when editing podcasts, but there is all these like things you have to kind of take into, like the breath work, and like there's the nasal factor, and there's so much that goes into just us talking, or singing even. Like it's it's crazy.
No, that's such a good point, man. It is crazy to think about that. It's something that we do every single day is kind of project our voice and get our voices heard and all that kind of stuff. But then when you're trying to, critique a voice going on a song or something like that, you're really zoned into the nasally of it. Like, is this guy breathing right? And you're thinking like, man, like breathing, like we're singing here, like why do you even have to think about breathing? But it makes a huge difference on the outcome of the record, and it's really funny to think about that kind of thing.
Yeah. And I don't know what singers are like, but I mean, whenever I hear my voice back, I absolutely hate it. So.
Oh, me too. I'm like, man, like I thought it was like I always think I should have like a deeper voice or something like that, and it's like for some reason I don't. I'm like, oh man, I guess that's just me hearing my voice in my head or whatever.
Yeah. I think my voice is like probably 2 or 3 octaves deeper than it actually is, and I hear it, I'm like, I sound like that? God damn it.
Yeah, you're like embarrassed all of a sudden. Nah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. No, it's funny though. Yeah.
And I listen to so much of my own voice. Like,
yeah, right. The podcasting, yeah, you must be tired of it by now.
Oh, yeah. Super sick of it. Super sick. That's why, again, I like it when other people talk.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I will continue to talk as much as I can for everyone.
Yeah. So do you kind of add in things when you're recording stuff as well? Do you kind of take that production side as well as the recording side, or?
Yeah. And that's something that I'm trying really hard these days to work on, because it's one thing to take somebody's song and make what they have sound good. It's another thing to kind of bring their song to life.
Yeah.
In a way, like filling the gaps, learning, what, not only what you can push and pull on with what they got, but what you can introduce to the song to reinforce their idea and their feel. And I think that's something that, like, a lot of these modern producers, you go back like 10 years to the days when like Joey Sturgis was just, the be all and end all with metalcore and kind of deathcore production in the States, or I guess here in North America, whatever. And man, that dude was adding all sorts of post-production, synths and pads and all sorts of stuff like that to really drive home the track, like to make it sound absolutely larger than life, like Inhuman. And that's something I'm definitely trying to get an ear for these days, not only in metal, but, whenever I produce anybody's song is... like looking for the instances where you can throw in an acoustic guitar or some harps or strings, synths, whatever the case may be. But I find it almost a guilty pleasure in taking something that somebody has written and created and being able to kind of contribute to their idea, but not just contribute to their idea, but contribute to their idea in a way that they get stoked on, and they're like, oh my god, yes, like this is the secret sauce I've been waiting for or whatever, and you're kind of like, yes, like, yeah, I was able to do that for them. Like, I was able to take their song and make it into something that they didn't realize they needed or that they had thought of, and so yeah, I'm constantly looking for those extra things. And it might be something as simple in metal as adding just like an ambience, just like a really loose like ambience guitar to kind of fill in the background, kind of create that cool stereo image, like that weird atmosphere.
Yeah.
In pop, it might just be like, maybe they have a guitar line that could just be layered with another guitar line or like a lead synth that just kind of reinforces what they have there to make it stand out a little bit more, just kind of make it sound a little bit more interesting, or just kind of grabs the listener. So
yeah,
I think those kinds of things are really important as well when you're working on somebody's songs. And I think that even goes into like some of the idea these days that the lines are being blurred between like producer or mixing engineer or like engineer, like I'm sure in like a big studio setting, like where everybody has their job, there's not too much stepping on toes going on or anything like that. But a guy like me who gets an album or a song from a band, and it's really only passing through my hands or whatever, I feel like really comfortable with the fact that I can kind of take this song and do some manipulation and work some things around, see what can work. And it's also nice on the flip side when bands send you something and they are super well thought out in their production, that it gives you like an idea, or like kind of sets the bar going forward, where you're taking a look at this band and you're like, damn, like, yeah, these guys got it, like this is actually so cool, like I can't believe they thought of adding this synth or this guitar or like this really airy stuff. And that's one thing that I'm experiencing right now with this band I've been working with the last year called The Broken Asylum. They're out of the States, and yeah, big shout out to The Broken Asylum. They just released their debut self-titled LP 2 months ago. And we're working on a song right now that I just did a mix for earlier today. But like these dudes, it's just 2 of these guys in this band.
Okay.
And their production is actually insane. Like it was even a league above mine when I first started working with them. Like I'm opening their session and I'm just like, wow, like yeah, like these guys got it. Like whatever it is, like these guys have it. It's excellent. Like it's so well thought out. They have every possible kind of element that you could want in a song like this. They have it. And it's so refreshing to see that kind of thing too, where you know, like yeah, on my part it's like yeah, easier in the way that I don't need to work my brain as hard to figure out what else I got to do. Like it's already there. But yeah, just being able to take a look at it and go like, okay, yeah, like this is what I got to be doing now. Like these guys showed me the way.
Awesome.
Yeah, so yeah, big shout out to The Broken Asylum.
Cool. Do you ever get like pushback on your ideas from artists? Like when
yeah.
you do, yeah.
Oh yeah, and it's nothing that I ever find like offensive or anything like that, right? Because you're talking about somebody's like baby. It's their project. It's their art. And yeah, you know, like you can try like a few things and maybe it's not that well received, and you just got to be okay with it. Like it's totally okay. Like they have their own sound that they're going for, and you know, just because it didn't match up with what you had going on, that's, you know, it's no big deal or whatever, and it's practically to be expected in my opinion. Yeah, you know, you can take a good shot at it, but if it doesn't drive home, then that's all right, man. Just on to the next idea or on to the next phase of things, and yeah, I mean, at the end of the day too, it's just whatever makes them happy. So
Yeah.
if they don't want like this cool like orchestra that I've totally programmed in, that's fine, man. I'll just use it for a different song.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, hey, it's experience. Like,
There you go. Yeah, why not? Yeah, why not just take the time to do something cool?
yeah. That's a good point though. Like, why not just do something cool? Like, why not just make cool things just for the sake of making cool things, you know?
100%, man.
Like,
Well, and as I was like learning to, you know, like using all these resources online or, you know, checking out YouTube videos and whatnot, like there's a lot of smart guys out there that are always trying to get you to get the idea across that essentially you should be experimenting each time you sit down at your desk or whatever. And you know, I think they always kind of approach it like, oh, like 10% of your mixing should be like you just experimenting on new things. And I don't think it has to be that rigid, but like if you go in and just think, I'm gonna try to blend this sample in with the drums and just see how it goes, or I'm just gonna try and do something funky with this bass guitar. Like maybe, I don't know, maybe like off the top, like why don't you put like chorus on the top end of the bass guitar during the chorus to kind of give it that weird kind of vibey sound, like, and I mean, that's just an idea where I have no idea if that works or not, or maybe I'll try when I get home or whatever. But like, you should always be experimenting each time you sit down to just see, you know, what can be done. And that's, I mean, that's the only way forward too, is it just takes that one time for it to like work or like for something to actually sound cool. And then you have a new tool in your arsenal to pull out whenever you need it. So it's perfect.
Exactly. And it was one of my favorite things about sound production is playing with, like, you have one sound like a bass line or something and just splitting those frequency and doing something to the top end and then beefing up the bottom end and doing something different in the mids and
Totally, man.
just fucking around in general, like, it's so satisfying, especially with sound for some reason. Maybe that's just me, but like
no, dude, it's so pleasing to listen back to something and just be like, fuck yeah, like I created this shit. It's so good. Yeah, it's so good. Right now, like I'm super stoked on this this kind of like I don't know, like indie pop kind of tune that I've worked out where I don't know, I'm just using like a ton of delay on the drums during the verses, and it just gives you that really kind of like distant but kind of thwacky sound or whatever. Like there's you know, the delay like has the hits like going in all sorts of directions, and it just the way it worked in the song, it just made me so happy. Like I was like, yes, like it was so worth taking the 45 seconds to just see if this was going to be a thing, and then it works and you're like, yes, excellent.
Yeah, I love those happy accidents too, where you're like, let's see what this sounds like on here, and then you're like, whoa.
And you love to see that in other people's productions too, like you know, like one of the things that, this is such a specific thing, I don't even, it's not almost not even worth talking about, but like with one of the latest like Amir songs, I think from like 2 years ago or whatever, they like put like a flanger all over the rhythm guitar in this kind of one droney section. And like even just saying it out loud, like it sounds so minor, sounds like a really dumb thing or whatever. Man, I just thought that was like the coolest thing of the entire album. Like just this one decision that this mixing engineer had to put a flanger on the rhythm guitar in this one song.
Yeah.
I was like, man, you made that song. Like it's perfect now. Like you did such a good job on just that one move.
Yeah. I love a good flanger. So.
Who doesn't? Yeah.
Yeah.
Give me those Eddie Van Halen vibes for sure.
Yeah. And it's something that I can definitely distinctly pick out in songs now. I'm like, they're using some flanger there. Like,
exactly, man. Pays to be bold, man. Pays to be bold.
Yeah. So since you do come from more of a metal background and stuff, you are mixing different genres of music. Does that kind of like metal vibe ever kind of leak into them? Or?
Oh yeah, and just off the top of my head, it leaks in for sure on the drum side of things. Like, I think that metal drums are some of the most impactful and well thought out. It's one of the instruments where, you know, if you listen to like metal drums like 20 years ago compared to metal drums now or whatever, huge difference in like what you're able to achieve with a drum mix. And yeah, like I definitely bleed my metal drums over to like a pop or indie pop or just indie rock, whatever kind of thing that has drums in it. And because I just think like the impact and the vibe and feel of metal drums translates really well over to other genres. And you know, like you have to make it make sense for that genre.
Yeah.
But the general idea can come across, and then you make your adjustments to kind of fit, you know, the EQ balance or like the smack of the compression on the drum bus or whatever. But like, yeah, the overall idea can easily be translated over, and I just love that.
Yeah. Do you ever take anything that you've kind of learned from the audio production side and apply it to your music side?
Oh, you might have to be more specific.
Well, like, has doing the audio production side of things impacted your playing at all, like your guitar playing at all?
Oh yeah, man. It's like it's made me both a better and worse guitar player in the way that like I'm like super tight with like my palm muting and pick attack and those couple things that we were chatting about before, and just being like on time and just really being like on with the song and all that kind of stuff, kind of knowing where you're at or whatever. But I've also like, you know, my lead chops or my solo chops are totally not where they should be now, because I can easily like fake a solo, like piece together a lead or a solo in the studio. And for me, especially with some of the songs that I write like just for myself, like I know I'm never gonna have to play those solos or those leads live, so I have no problem like piecing them together and just having like something really cool in there. And it's not that I like can't play it, I just I definitely couldn't play it as tight as what you're hearing like on the track. So I've definitely lost a little bit of that kind of thing. But yeah, so on the rhythm side of things, like it's made me insanely tight and just really on time with what I got to do, and the right kind of impact and all that kind of jazz.
Okay.
As much as you can with a guitar, I guess, and bass guitar.
Yeah. It's one thing that I was talking to Black Mastiff, which is a band out of Edmonton, and they recently released an album. And one of the things they said is that, you know, they were always worried about when they were recording something, if they were going to be able to recreate it live.
Yeah.
But on their latest album, they were like, we kind of just ditched that idea and we made the album that we wanted to make. You know, we made this piece of music that it was just the best piece of music that we could release. And we didn't care if we could play it live, because the live show and the recorded thing is different, you know?
That's exactly how we think about our music too in Our Last Crusade is, you know, it's not that you're trying to write music that you can't play live or whatever, but we're so aware that there's your studio music and your live music, and they're two totally different things. And I'll be the first to admit that, like, if there's like a rhythm kind of fill or section in my rhythm guitar that I can't quite play like 100% the way it was written or anything like that, man, I just change it. I just change it to sound close to, or like something that just fits with the song or whatever for live use. But yeah, I just like, no one's gonna care. Like, I couldn't think of any one person that could like pick out like the one thing I changed and be like, hey, Prusky,
Yeah.
what the hell do you think you're doing? And he'd be like, oh man, sorry, I didn't realize you were out there listening to that riff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I just change whatever I want to, and it's kind of nice too, because like selfishly, like with the 3 guitarists in our band or whatever,
Yeah.
I totally give myself a lot of slack. Like, I'm like, these other guys got it. Like,
Yeah.
they totally got this. I'm good to do it. Like, I don't even need to play this song. I'm just gonna go have a beer or something.
Yeah.
But, yeah,
Well, yeah,
I'll
like
do that way.
I feel like I've said it many times, but like if you want to hear the album exactly as it was recorded live, then just listen to it at home. Like
Yeah, totally.
you're not going to a show to just experience the music played perfectly. You're going for all the other reasons that you go to live music events.
Well,
Like,
you're there ideally to like connect with the band, and if the way that you connect with a band is just to listen to their music on headphones, then that's what you got to do. And if you're gonna connect with the band by being there, supporting them, you know, buying merch or doing whatever you're doing at shows, then man, that's what you got to do too. And yeah, there's a huge difference between the two.
yeah, for sure. Do you do much like live off the floor kind of stuff, or
No, not typically.
No.
No, not since my university days, to be honest.
Yeah.
If there are bands or artists that want to do live off the floor, I kind of send them in a couple different places. You know, here in Calgary, we have OCL Studios who does great work. Yeah, they got a good team there, and they do a bunch of really great like live off the floor, like kind of like country, you know, acoustic or country or rock type recordings, and so it's even stuff that I don't usually get like my hands on with a lot anyways. Like I'm not really big into like country production or mixing and mastering. Like I don't mind like doing some of those things if it comes across, but you know, for them to be able to go to like something to somewhere like OCL Studios is a big plus for them, I think, and so. I let those guys do what they got to do, and then actually for drum tracking too, if there's a band and their drummer is awesome and they really want to track their own drums, then I send them over to my buddy Cody Anstey from CRM Sound Lab or Sound Studio. Sorry, Cody, and he does. I mean, he's like a prog drummer with his own crazy kit and his own little studio there, and yeah, man, that guy crushes out some wicked drum recordings. So it's kind of nice too to kind of network around and see who's really good at what and who's really passionate about, you know, like a really niche thing with audio production, and kind of just forming an alliance and going for it. So yeah, I'm really thankful for Cody for that. And other than that, I don't really do anything with live off the floor stuff. Like I said, with my lean home studio setup or whatever, I just have enough to be dangerous, and live off the floor doesn't really fall under that umbrella, but yeah, I do pretty well with what I got, at least.
yeah, for sure. Is there a benefit to one versus the other? Like,
Yeah, in a few different ways. If you think about it from like a band perspective, sometimes they play better together
yeah,
than they
okay.
do separate from each other. And I think anybody could kind of get on board with that. And if they're just a band that just really vibes with each other, they don't need to, play to like a click and have that really, gridded kind of tempo thing going on. Yeah, man, just get them all in a room and set up some microphones and, make a fun mess of things and just go for it. Yeah, I mean, it comes with its own set of challenges too on the audio production side, like with the audio engineer or mixing engineer. But it's just a part of the fun of it. Like you don't really think about it in terms of kind of what you got, other than what it can do for you trying to go forward and what you've got to work with or whatever. So yeah, no, I just yeah, it's apples and oranges, I guess. It's just two totally different things, and comes with its own territories, and yeah, just kind of having fun and experimenting with those kinds of setups too is just a part of the rabbit hole, man. It's just part of the fun.
Yeah, for sure. I've heard many bands complain, well, not complain, but just tell stories of the dreaded click track.
Yeah. I think that's even why I say, like, I'm my harshest critic, because I'll be like, God damn it, Kyle, like, listen to the click, like, what are you doing? Yeah. And some people, especially when we're talking about these bands who might be recording their first EP or their first few songs, man, like, the click track can be something that's totally foreign to them. Like maybe they don't really understand like how to listen to the click and to track or whatever, and you know, just like anything else, you kind of just practice with it. It's a metronome, right? So it's just like kind of that old school practicing with timing, and after a few goes you kind of get it. But yeah, the click can for sure be pretty frustrating. I don't ever record vocals with clicks. It's just the instruments, but even then, yeah, some guys just yeah, I don't know, just comfort level thing, I guess.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of drummers, and they've come in here and they've like, I have never played to a click track before until we tried to record this.
I love the bands that come in and they're like, yeah, our drummer is a human metronome. I'm like, I bet you anything you're wrong. Yeah, that's really cute, but you're wrong.
Yeah, no, definitely. So I took a look at your like social media and stuff for the, and you do post like a lot of things on there that seems like you're trying to, I guess, prepare musicians as much as possible before they come into the studio.
100%, man. Yeah. No. If you've taken a look at my site or my social media, I've released a bunch of blogs that are just kind of just, you know, dipping your toes in kind of thing, getting familiar with the basics of recording, or even like the basics of recording in terms of what to expect in the studio. Like I have a post up there that kind of goes over like the basics of studio etiquette and things like that. Like, you know, nothing that you really need to drive home into people, but it's just good reminders to kind of read these articles and kind of get yourself prepared and know what to expect when you go into the studio. I have some articles that are, you know, like a lot of bands are DIY, so I have some articles that are like common recording mistakes or whatever, so that they might be able to keep an eye out for some of the basic things that they shouldn't be doing. I like the ones that are like a couple of the really informative ones that I've gotten some good reception on is an article that's just simply sending your songs off for mixing and mastering. So, you know, a band is self-recording and they're just kind of breaking open their session for the first time, trying to give it a go. They have no idea how to send, like 50 multi-tracks over to a mixing engineer where it's, you know, really concise, really clear what's going on. You have all the information you need or whatever. And it's just an article that's really helped people to be able to kind of go through a step-by-step checklist of, okay, I want to send my song off to so-and-so for mixing and mastering. This is exactly how I got to do it or whatever, like proper naming, proper start, end times, whatever. And another article is simply just how to build your own DIY acoustic panel. So like lots of like little things that just help people get to a point where they can record their own music or kind of start to think about these kinds of things, what they might need to accomplish in the studio. And then I even have, I'm going to go on a tangent here for sure. I got all sorts of different little things.
Yeah.
But I have a video series on YouTube that I call How to Make a Good Song Great. And it's literally that, where like I'll have like an OLC song or somebody else's song where I'm showing vocals or whatever, and how important it can be to record vocal doubles or something like that. So, I'll show you like, yeah, this is what the song sounds like with just single vocals. Sounds great, like nothing wrong there or whatever. However, this is what it sounds like with a reinforced double, and this is something that you should consider when you're recording your own song, is doing vocal doubles, and how to beef up your clean guitars, or how to write bass that kind of follows the drummer a little bit to create like a bit of a stronger backbone. Like I think I have about like 8 different videos on just little recording ways that you can you have your song and it's a really good song, you have a really good idea, and you just want it to kind of come out to a level that it can be, and have every part kind of pop out and wow your listener. And it's just little videos I've made to kind of show you how you can take rhythm guitar and beef it up in the chorus to create like a really impactful chorus and stuff like that. So nothing earth-shattering, just showing people here's a few extra things you can consider when you're recording your song. It's not just guitar, bass, whatever, like it's like take some liberties, like just go for it, like record a bunch of stuff and just like layer a bunch of things, make things sound as strong as they can, put some different sounds together, record doubles, do whatever you got to do to make your song sound great. But but yeah, I'm really happy with those videos and just showing people how they can take their song from good to great. I love that kind of thing. Even just talking about it right now, like I'm just like I want to help people like record better music, and I have a few other things on my site that are kind of geared towards that as well. Like I have an ebook that I'm releasing really soon here, simply called How to Record Music at Home, and it just goes through like, okay, like you have your insanely lean home studio setup or whatever. Here's how you get a big studio sound out of just that. And just trying to like break down those barriers for people and show them like, listen, like it does not take much to get to where you want to go, and with a little bit of planning, a little bit of thought out execution, you can get there, man, and it's beautiful. Yeah.
That's awesome. It's cool that you are just putting that information out there for people.
Yeah.
Just to make good music. And you, like me, I'm sure, believe that the more good music that there is out there, the better this world will be.
Oh, like, absolutely. Who could argue with that, man?
Yeah.
Who could argue with that?
Like, I'm sure, like, there's... I feel like some people come from, like, a famine mentality, you know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, there's not enough for everybody. There's only so many, like, music positions, or there can only be so many bands that are successful in a city. Whereas, like, I'm more like... the more the better, you know? It's not that... there's no famine. The more of us who are successful and doing well, the better for everybody, you know?
Well, and let's be honest, too. Like, we live in such a age where there's so much content being curated and so much content being consumed all the time. If you're not going to put it out there, like, somebody else is. And it's not that, you need to be the one who's putting it out there, but why hold yourself back? Like, all the information that you need to write and record, arrange a great song is out there. You're just trying to put the pieces together for somebody who might be in your network that could benefit from that. And because I've definitely struggled with that too, in a way. Like, I'm like, oh, do I really want to put these like kind of recording golden nuggets like out there? Like, it's not earth shattering, but do I really want to put like that kind of thing out there? Like, when people could come to me and I could do that for them, and like sustain my business or whatever. And then you think, man, no, like this is all just fun stuff. Like, this is just one piece of the puzzle too. Like, it's not like they have, the secret sauce for every aspect of what I'm doing or anything like that. So why not just show them that, vocal doubles are a good idea? Like, even just to sum it up like that, like that's all I'm putting out there for that kind of content, is like, hey guys, vocal doubles equals good idea.
Yeah.
Consider doing that for yourself. End of story. And it's like, yeah. Might as well.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of crazy how like the tiniest things in music production can make the biggest difference.
Man, you nailed it. Yeah, you absolutely nailed it.
Yeah.
And it's so fun to come across what other people are doing and picking up little tips and tricks as well along the way, because at the end of the day too, I think you've kind of said it, like we're all trying to kind of help each other out, and it's just about putting the best that we can out there for ourselves and for everybody else. And it's a good kind of community vibe too when you kind of get into that side of things. Like, when you just feel like you might be helping people out, you're part of the community, man. You're building on the community, and it's a positive thing.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And it's like, even with this podcast, like the whole thing about it has been like kind of that community building aspect.
Yeah, totally, man.
And like, I get no greater feeling than when somebody comes up and they're like, hey, I listened to that episode of the podcast, or like, I found out of this band because of the podcast. I'm like, oh, that's the point of it. Like, dude, awesome. Like,
I can totally feel that. Absolutely.
Yeah. But I think what you really nailed it with, like, taking good things to great, like, you can have like a song and it sounds completely fine, but then you make that slight adjustment. It's like, wow, how much it can, like, one thing for me was tuning your kick drum.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's all the little things, man.
Yeah. You busted over a couple of whatever the word is escaping me, but
no worries.
And it just like elevates the song so much. And
absolutely,
yeah, awesome. So I guess, is there any just kind of final things you want to throw out there, or?
Oh man, I mean, words of wisdom. I'm not even sure if I could leave you with any other than just like, the one thing that I use in my videos to kind of send people off, that it's I want them to pay attention to what I'm saying about what I'm trying to show them or whatever. But guys, it's all about having fun. Like, just have fun making some noise and leave it at that. Like, don't stress out or worry too much. Just have fun making some noise and follow your instincts and follow your ears. As funny as that sounds, like we don't give our ears enough credit, man. Like it takes time to develop an ear and to be able to take something that you have in your head and be able to translate that to the outside world. So just follow your ears, have a ton of fun making a mess of noise, and just create something that sounds awesome to you, and just go with it. And don't let anybody like drag you down or anything like that. Not that anybody out there is naysaying. Just do it for you and have fun.
That's awesome. And one of the hardest things is taking those ideas that you have in your head and making them reality, whether it be a song or art or a story, whatever it is. It's so no matter how you are doing it, that is admirable.
Absolutely. No, and that's the most satisfying feeling I think that you could have, is just getting something onto paper and being able to take a look at it and be like, yeah, that's it.
I definitely agree. Why don't you tell people how they can find you if they would like to
Absolutely.
do that?
Well, guys, it could be something as simple as just check me out on Facebook, Kyle Prusky, Prusky. There's not a lot of last names out there like mine, actually, so it should be pretty easy. And just feel free to throw me a friend request or a message request or whatever, and get in contact. Even doing this podcast here with Cody, like, man, I could just talk about this stuff for absolutely hours. And I said it once, I'll say it again. It's a rabbit hole, guys. Like, it is so much fun to talk about anything music. And, even if we're not going to work together, like through like Apex Audio, if I'm not going to mix and master your stuff, I don't care. I just want to hear about what you're doing, what you're up to, even just what your goals are and your aspirations. Like, we're all in this together, and like Cody and I have been saying here, it touches on the community side of things, man. And there's a lot of ways for local music and passionate musicians to get out there, and let's just talk about it. So definitely feel free. Don't hesitate at all to reach out and start a conversation. And let's just create some good connections and some good music.
Awesome. I'll have all the links in the episode notes, so if people do want to reach out, it's slightly easier for them to find you. So, thank you very much for being on the podcast again.
Oh, for sure, Cody. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah.
If you liked this episode of the podcast, why not leave a review? You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. For up-to-date information on the podcast, follow us on Facebook and Twitter. You can find us at Froggy Style Productions. That's Frog, the letter E, Style Productions. For more ways to support the show, visit fsproductions.ca.